My grandmother was diagnosed with lung cancer before I was born. She went through a lot, and every day was a new challenge she had to face. In 2008, during a Thanksgiving service, the pastor had a rolling mic going around asking the congregation what they were thankful for. My grandmother, being who she was, stood up to talk. When she was asked what she was thankful for, she replied, "I am thankful for my cancer because it has brought me closer to God." Not only was she thankful for something that most people would not have been, but through it all, she was positive. She struggled daily. However, every time I saw her, she had a smile on her face. I remember she would take my sister and I to breakfast, and then we'd go to the bookstore. We'd spend all morning with her and my grandpa. Wherever we went, she always was kind to everyone we encountered. Since I was so young, I didn't see it then, but I know now that she was constantly in pain. At that point, she had gone through multiple chemotherapies and radiation treatments, as well as surgeries. Still, when we walked around, she had a smile on her face. I don't think I ever remember her raising her voice or saying something mean to anyone once. My only memories were of her smiling and laughing all the time. She always had something good to say, and that's where I believe my passion for positive words stemmed from. She passed away when I was in second grade, and considering how young I was, I never thought that someone that was in my life for such a short period of time could have so much impact on it. But here I am, 10 years later, dedicating a whole year to something inspired by her. Intentional words of affirmation are extremely important, and can be seen in the way people generally light up when you tell them that you like their shoes or that their hair looks good today. This semester I looked at the idea of love where there isn't any. Proverbs 16:24 tells us that gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. I have explored the importance of intentional affirmation towards everyone. In our society, the lack of affirmation, even to the people right around us, is so incredibly present. People are growing up to believe that they are worthless and unloved. I believe diction can play a big part in the way that everyone can experience the world. As Dumbledore would say, words are, in my not-so-humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it. I started off by wanting to explore the idea of positive words in the lives of children. But as the year went on, I realized positive words can and do impact people of all ages. I thought I was going to slowly pursue the idea of words specifically in the lives of traumatized children that have experienced shock, neglect, or abuse. But the more I thought, I realized, yes, children experience trauma, but so do parents and teachers and adults in general. In fact, in order to deal with these situations, public school teachers are now being taught how to deal with children, teens, and even their own coworkers experiencing trauma. This is through an ACE test, which determines how much trauma a person has been through and what that trauma has done to a person scientifically. People who score higher on the ACE test are more likely to have health and social problems, such as alcohol addiction, depression, liver disease, smoking problems, and suicide attempts. ACE's test questions stem from childhood experiences that harm a child's developing brain and change the way they respond to stress. This is not saying that having specific experiences are guaranteed to lead to these things. However, they are much more likely. Because in the end, it wasn't about who experienced trauma, because everyone does. This test teaches educators how to use words positively with their students and coworkers. Because if positive words can help children in tough places, they can also help adults. A study recently done through this ACE test showed that 11,333 people out of 17,000 people said that they have experienced some sort of trauma throughout their lives. Not only is that extremely sad, but just the more reason to be cautious of your words and try to use them in a positive manner towards everyone. Think about it. When you walk around on a day-to-day basis, do you ever consider what you say? Or just take a second to think about the words you say before you say them? Do you ever think that something that sounds so insignificant to you could really impact someone else? Or maybe even change how they view themselves? Think back to when the last time something like this came out of your mouth. What on earth is she wearing? Did you hear what he did? Oh my God, she's so annoying. It happens more than you think it does, and most of the time it's just subconscious and slips out. And as little as this might seem in the moment, and even if they don't hear you say it, it is a form of evil. Just think about it. Would you say that to their face? Would you look them in the eye and tell them and ask them why they are wearing that terrible shirt? No, most of us wouldn't. A project recently done by Ripple Kindness said that teens that point out the flaws in others lack confidence in themselves and feel the need to belittle others to make themselves feel good about who they are. This might sound silly to you, but is mostly prevalent in the lives of middle and high schoolers. The same project found that teens with a positive self-image feel less inclined to bully others. And nowadays, bullying is made even easier through social media. My dad said that when he was young, things would be said and happen at school. But once he went home, he could escape from those things and leave them behind. Whereas now, when things happen and are said to kids at school, they are followed by those things home through their phones. Teens are using their phones to exploit others because they feel as if they have a separation from that person through a screen. Not only does social media allow people to use words without thinking of the consequences, but it also allows them to feel like they can say whatever they want, whenever they want. For example, we see teens rating each other and expressing opinions about one another through social media. Take these images here. These charts and anonymous commentaries can be seen as good, something to uplift others and have fun with your friends. But the problem is, sometimes with this rating system, is that many teens, mostly younger, will internalize any negative comments they receive. And before you know it, it becomes their self-talk and how they actually identify with themselves. They start to believe the negative comments said about them. This will no doubt impact their mood and the experiences they have. This is why positive affirmations are so important. Statements that are positive are designed to build self-esteem through changing negative self-talk. These affirmations for self-esteem make children feel good about themselves and help them embrace their positive qualities. Thrive Global found that when teaching kids affirmation for self-esteem, that the brain plays a big part in the role. And the way we view ourselves and others. The brain has centralized control over all the organs in the body and is constantly sending and receiving messages to help the body function properly. Since the brain processes all this information on the spot, it takes everything we say and think literally. The brain doesn't distinguish between real and fantasy. This is why scary movies frighten some people, even though they know what's happening isn't real. So then when kids are prone to constantly thinking and hearing negative things about themselves, they will need to retrain their brain to think more positively about who they are. Therefore, when kids repeat positive affirmations for self-esteem, the brain receives it as truth, even if they haven't fully internalized and owned the positive statement themselves. Positive words that are absorbed by the mind are used to create a belief system of oneself. Once affirmations are learned and repeated, they work by coming to mind when that belief is challenged. What we think of ourselves is often what we believe. If we feel worthless, we will act worthless. If we are called stupid and believe it, we will act stupid. Whereas if we are told and believe that we are loved and special, we will act loved and special. This is why words are so important, especially when kids are experiencing bullying. If they are rooted in who they are as a person and in the understanding that God uniquely created them, they will be more resilient and self-assured. So how do we practice some of these? One of the most valuable lessons is being comfortable looking at yourself in a mirror and learning to talk about yourself with kindness and positivity. Many of us find it hard to look at our reflection without being critical, judgmental, and negative about ourselves. And it might seem silly to you, but sit in front of a mirror and instead of pointing out all the things you wish were different about yourself, look at the things you like about yourself. This could be physical or even a character trait. Speaking positive words about yourself out loud can change how we view ourselves and ultimately how we treat others. If we can use kind words on ourselves and see the good in ourselves, we can easily find the good in others. This past semester, I chose to study the dynamic at our school, specifically with words, working directly and anonymously with the student body to test both judgmental first impressions and to figure out how positive our school really is. By doing this, I found some really unsettling things. I was first able to experience how powerful first impressions are. My experiment consisted of showing 9 highly stereotyped photos to a group of students, asking them to write down their very first impression of that photo. Within those 9 photos, another picture was planted, one that was not stereotyped as much, and mostly seen as a quote-unquote normal photo. This experiment worked exactly as I hoped. In doing this, I had not only captured the positive first impressions, but also the negative. Initial impressions are normally formed within 1/10 of a second within meeting someone, meaning that by the time the picture was removed from the screen, the student's brain has already determined exactly who that person is. The Association for Physical Science did a test similar to this and found that longer exposure to the photo increased confidence in judgments and facilitated more differentiating trait impressions. Due to this, I left the photo on the board for 10 seconds, so the students were easily able to fully process the image. Most first impressions are based on stereotypes, those we have heard due to our own knowledge or experience or due to the input of others around us. For example, seeing this picture, you too have probably already determined a little bit about who this person is, just based on what he looks like. This is the same picture that I showed the students, and many of their responses were negative. I would not go up to talk to him. Gross. Control yourself. Not a Christian. Crazy. Ugly. Seriously messed up. These responses stem from the student's own belief and the belief of others around them, choosing to put stereotypes and judgments over actually getting to know the person. In relation to this, we see the less biased photo, and we see the results opposite to the ones before, being more positive and kind. Most of the things the students said fell under one of these categories. Happy, makes me want to smile, cute, nice. Not all stereotypes are negative. However, for this experience, I leaned specifically into negative biases in order to draw out specific negative responses from the students. Words, stereotypes, and first impressions don't seem like they are similar, but they actually go hand in hand. Because most of our first impressions of a person are based on what we already know and have heard. If you hear all negative things about someone who looks or acts a certain way, then your first impression is more than likely to be negative, and vice versa. This is where words come into play. Most of these impressions and thoughts will tend to be internal, yes. But how would you feel if someone chose not to be your friend without even meeting you? That probably wouldn't feel good. This is why we need to try to strive to push past the initial reactions and really truly get to know someone before forming an opinion about them. However, this is much easier said than done. Trust me, I am definitely guilty of falling into this situation. In order to avoid falling into stereotypes, you need to think about the words that leave your mouth before they do, which is practically impossible without a desire to be better and change how we talk and view others. Strive to be the person that makes an effort to get to know everyone, regardless of what they look or act like. That doesn't mean that you need to be best friends with everyone, but instead try to be kind to everyone and treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Along with this project, I asked the students to anonymously answer 7 questions about positive and negative words and how they believe those words are used in our school among our teachers, students, and coaches. These results were the most discouraging part of my experiment. I started by asking 84 students how they feel the culture at Front Range is with positivity. Over 80% of those students said that they feel the culture at Front Range is either never or sometimes positive. This includes student-to-student relationships, but that's not to say teacher-to-student relationships are not present as well. Most of the responses consisted of students saying that there was unnecessary sarcasm within the student body, judgment within the staff and students, and all-around harsh words. I have never experienced a school or a group of kids as mean as the ones here, one student said. I could probably count on one hand the kids who are positive, said another. I feel like positivity is the one thing students really lack at Front Range. When reading just a few of the 84 responses to this question, I was overwhelmed with the need and desire to fix this. The first thought that came to my head was, what should I have done more to help out with the positivity in our school? I'm a senior, and my ability to impact the school is mostly gone. That being said, I would like to challenge our student body, our faculty members, our next senior class, to really dig into this idea. Strive to be kind, always, and build people up instead of tearing them down. You can change this place and make it so that 80% of those students find that Front Range has a positive culture instead of the opposite. So, do it. Another question I asked the students was if they remember the last time a teacher or a student took the time to compliment or uplift them. 65% of them said that they clearly remember being complimented recently by a peer or a teacher. And out of all of those students, the majority of them said they could specifically name the teacher or the student it was said by, when it was said, and what exactly they said. This tells me that the small amount of positivity our students are receiving, they are taking to heart and really truly value. These positive statements dated from that very morning all the way back to 3 weeks before, and even as far as a year before that. Positive words make an impact. A good friend at the beginning of the year told me that you can't truly know the power of positive words if you don't know the power of negative words. Well, now you know. You have seen the power and effect of negative words. So, how are you going to change it? Pick up your phone and text someone and tell them how much you appreciate them. Let the lady at the supermarket checkout know how good her hair looks today. Compliment your peers in the hallway. You have the ability to make a difference. Do it. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. We are all made in the image of God. And if we can see ourselves and others in a positive light, and then are able to express that, we are more likely to be happier and altogether more positive. You can affect those around you even with the smallest little phrase that you would think is irrelevant. Never hesitate to affirm someone. Words are powerful, and you have the ability to make an impact. Take it. Thank you.